There comes a moment in every heart when questions rise like a storm, when the soul whispers, "How do I know?" In that moment, the human spirit is drawn toward something greater than itself, pulled between seen evidence and unseen truth. Evidence becomes a gateway, an open door inviting the mind to examine, to seek, to weigh what has been spoken, written, and lived. But after all the facts are laid upon the table, something deeper must take hold. Faith must rise as the bridge that carries a person from analysis to assurance. Evidence can stir curiosity, but faith births certainty. The testimony of those who encountered Christ and stood in the presence of miracles, those who walked with Him after His resurrection, those who were willing to lay down their lives rather than deny what they saw and experienced. These accounts ignite an undeniable sense of credibility. The Qur'an calls the human mind to reflect upon the signs in creation, in history, and within the soul. It challenges the individual. Will you not think? Will you not reason? Will you not see the truth that calls to your heart? Evidence is not the enemy of faith. It is the foundation upon which faith steps forward with confidence. But if a person only stands at the gate of evidence and never steps onto the bridge of faith, they will remain on the shore of uncertainty. Faith does not cancel logic. It transcends it. It takes what reason begins and carries it to its completion. One may read about the historical case for Christ and see the testimonies of eyewitnesses, the transformation of disciples, the endurance of the gospel under persecution, and the power of His message to span centuries and cultures. One may reflect upon the Qur'an's constant reminder to ponder the signs in the heavens and the earth, to look at the design of life, to consider the impossibility of such precision without a creator. These are not calls to blind belief, they are calls to informed conviction. Evidence whispers, "Look." Faith declares, "I believe." Evidence says, "There is reason to trust." Faith says, "I step forward and stand firm." Without evidence, belief seems imaginary. Without faith, knowledge remains lifeless and ineffective. There is a moment when evidence becomes personal, when historical accounts and scriptural calls to reflection collide with the voice within. That voice says, "What will you do with this truth?" That is where faith steps in. Faith is not a leap into darkness, it is a step into light revealed. The heart that has wrestled with questions and examined the facts becomes ready to trust. When faith ignites, a deep assurance floods the soul. It is not merely belief in an idea, it is confidence in a living truth that continues to transform lives. Evidence points to a risen Savior. Faith encounters Him personally. Evidence recognizes divine signs in life. Faith responds by surrendering to the one who gave them. The mind may conclude that something is likely true, but faith embraces it as absolute reality. Evidence stands outside the door, but faith opens it and walks in. When a lawyer examines a case, they look for consistency, motive, witnesses, outcomes. The case for Christ offers all these. The Qur'an's call to reflect beckons the human spirit to observe reality through the lens of purpose. Lives that were once broken find restoration through belief. Hearts that were empty become filled with peace beyond understanding. This transformation becomes living evidence. Yet none of it becomes real until one steps across the threshold of faith. Evidence is the courtroom testimony. Faith is the verdict rendered in the heart. Once faith has taken root, confidence grows. Not a confidence born of pride, but one rooted in trust. Faith produces strength when storms arise, courage when fear whispers, hope when situations look impossible. Evidence may have introduced the heart to truth, but faith keeps the heart anchored in it. When a person stands at the gateway of evidence, they may feel hesitant to cross. Questions may arise. What if I am wrong? What if I cannot see what lies ahead? But faith replies, you are not walking alone. Faith is not denying uncertainty. It is choosing to trust the one who has given signs, testimonies, and inner assurance. The journey of faith is not based on emotions alone, but grounded upon a combination of reliable evidence and divine conviction. The more one walks in faith, the more evidence is confirmed through personal experience. Answers come through prayer, peace settles in chaos, strength appears in weakness, victory emerges through perseverance. Faith does not wait for every question to be answered before moving forward. It steps forward trusting that light will grow as the journey continues. The human heart was created to believe. It was designed to connect with something greater than itself. Evidence awakens the desire to believe, but faith fulfills it. There is a deep longing inside every soul to know truth, to stand on something unshakable. Evidence gives the mind permission to trust. Faith gives the spirit power to stand. When faith is ignited by the truth supported by evidence and reflection, the journey of transformation begins. A person no longer lives by mere intellectual acknowledgement, but by spiritual conviction. Faith becomes a bridge that carries the believer across doubt, beyond fear, and into a realm of peace, strength, and assurance. Evidence may prove that truth exists, but faith enables a person to live by it. The gateway has been opened through signs, testimonies, and the call to reason. But only faith can lead the heart to step through that gateway and into a relationship with truth itself. Jesus' resurrection stands as one of the most compelling events in human spiritual history, not merely as a moment of faith, but as a powerful claim foundational to belief. The disciples did not preach a philosophy birthed in imagination. They testified to an event they witnessed with their eyes, touched with their hands, and proclaimed with boldness even when threatened with persecution and death. Their transformation from fearful followers to courageous proclaimers adds weight to their testimony. Fearful men don't suddenly become fearless martyrs for something they fabricated. Something happened that shifted them from despair to unstoppable conviction. They saw him alive, they spoke with him, they watched him ascend. This is not just faith, this is eyewitness-driven faith. Evidence shook their doubt, and faith empowered their mission. In contrast, the Qur'an constantly calls the human mind to look at signs, ayat spread across creation and revelation. These signs are not limited to miraculous interventions, but include everyday wonders such as the rhythm of life, the rotation of the heavens, the precision in human creation, the alternation of night and day, and the moral alignment written deep within the conscience. These signs call one not merely to observe, but to reflect, to think, to engage the mind deeply until the heart aligns with inner certainty. In this reflective journey, faith is not divorced from reason. Rather, reason becomes the path that leads to faith. The Qur'an invites individuals to consider whether the order of the universe could arise by chance, whether the moral compass within is accidental, whether life and death have no purpose. It challenges arrogance with reflection and awakens dormant awareness with reminders. Just as the resurrection stands as a powerful historical sign for Christians, the Quranic ayats stand as universal, continuous signs accessible to every human being willing to reflect deeply in both journeys. Whether one stands before the empty tomb or gazes upon the cosmic signs, there is a point where evidence speaks and the heart must respond. The resurrection offers historical and spiritual evidence. The ayat offer existential and cosmic evidence. Both challenge doubt by presenting undeniable markers of a divine reality. Yet, while evidence initiates the process, it cannot finish it alone. Evidence proves possibility, faith solidifies certainty. A person may examine the accounts of the resurrection and be compelled by their authenticity, but still remain hesitant to step into belief until faith rises. A person may contemplate the signs in creation and acknowledge a creator, yet never surrender in trust until faith ignites inward surrender. When the empty tomb was discovered and the stone was rolled away, skepticism initially resided even among the disciples. Thomas declared he would not believe unless he touched the wounds. Yet when confronted with the resurrected Christ, he was compelled to respond in belief. His doubt was not condemned. It was redirected into conviction through testimony met with presence. Likewise, the Qur'an acknowledges that some hearts need to reflect deeper because they walk blindly without recognizing signs. It calls people who deny reflection as those who see but do not perceive, hear but do not understand. Reflection is a step towards faith, and faith becomes the conclusion of that reflection. The power of resurrection is not only found in the claims of what happened in history, but in what it continues to do in lives today. Testimonies of transformed souls, broken individuals restored, hopeless lives renewed, families healed, and sinners redeemed serve as living proofs of resurrection power working spiritually. In the same way, the spiritual reflections invited by the Qur'an lead individuals to introspection that results in inner realignment, moral reformation, and deepened faith. When a person recognizes the signs around them and within them, they begin to live not in aimless wandering, but in purposeful surrender. Resurrection is not merely a proof of Christ's divinity, but a declaration that death is not the final word. It speaks of victory over fear, sin, and despair. The ayat of the Qur'an speaks similarly of resurrection of the spirit, an awakening from heedlessness, a revival of the heart that was once hardened. They point toward accountability, purpose, and the unseen realm. Reflection upon these signs gives the soul a pathway toward understanding that life extends beyond the physical and that truth is not limited to what is seen. Both resurrection and ayat confront the soul with a divine call. Will you respond to what has been shown? Will you trust what has been revealed? Will you allow what you have seen, heard, and felt to lead you into full belief? The path of faith is not birthed out of blind emotion, but out of a deep encounter with truth, whether through historical testimony or cosmic reflection. Evidence stands like a witness in a courtroom, presenting its case. Faith is the jury's final decision, rendering a verdict not just with words, but with life transformation. Resurrection stands against hopelessness, calling believers to rise above fear. Ayat stand against heedlessness, calling believers to awaken from spiritual slumber. Both call humanity to faith that transforms the inner being and redirects the outer life. It is not enough to agree mentally. One must trust deeply. It is not enough to observe signs. One must surrender to their meaning. When faith responds to evidence, power is released in the soul. Assurance replaces hesitation. Conviction replaces confusion. Direction replaces wandering. Faith born from resurrection evidence or reflective sign-based awakening is not passive. It moves mountains in the heart. It emboldens the believer to endure hardship. It silences doubt with inner assurance. It creates an unshakable resilience that endures storms because it is rooted not just in speculative thought, but in spiritually affirmed truth. And as one walks further in faith, the initial evidence becomes painted with personal testimony. The resurrection is no longer just something Christ did. It becomes something He brings alive in the believer. The ayat are no longer distant signs. They become present whispers guiding daily faith in the end. Both the resurrection and the ayat serve as divine invitations to step from mere observation into personal encounter, from intellectual agreement into spiritual surrender, from questioning to conviction, from reflection to relationship. Within the journey of evidence and belief, logic and faith, there is a realm far deeper than intellectual agreement. It is the inner witness, a spiritual confirmation that rises not from external debate, but from inward revelation. When truth moves from the mind into the heart, something profound takes place. The resurrection accounts may be read, the ayat of the Qur'an may be reflected upon, but when the inner witness awakens, faith ceases to be theoretical and becomes experiential. There is a divine testimony that speaks not with human words, but with spiritual certainty. Many have read the same evidence, heard the same testimonies, seen the same signs, yet not all respond with faith, because faith is not only born from outward signs, but ignited by inward conviction. The heart has the ability to either open like soil ready to receive seed, or shut like stone that refuses to embrace rain. The inner witness is that spiritual assurance that whispers, "This is truth." It is that still small voice that aligns with what has been revealed outwardly. When a person hears the message of Christ's resurrection and something within begins to resonate, it is not random emotion, it is the Spirit testifying to truth. When an individual reflects upon the signs in creation and the call of the Qur'an to ponder deeply, and suddenly awareness dawns that there is indeed a Creator who calls them, it is not just a logical deduction but a spiritual awakening. The mind may analyze, but the heart confirms. When the inner witness rises, arguments lose their power to shake faith, because faith is no longer standing on external persuasion, but on internal illumination. This inner confirmation is what turns belief into conviction. It is what transforms one from a casual observer into a committed believer. Without inner witness, one may agree intellectually yet waver in times of trial. But when the inner voice of divine affirmation speaks, storms may come, questions may arise, opposition may challenge, yet the believing heart stands firm, because it is not holding on to borrowed faith, but to personally witness truth within. That is why some walk away at the first sign of opposition, while others endure even in persecution. The difference is not only in the evidence they received, but in the depth of inner witness they encountered. When truth is heard externally and confirmed internally, faith becomes unshakable. The Qur'an calls the human heart to reflect not only outwardly but inwardly, for within each soul lies a fitra, an innate recognition of truth. When reflection aligns with this natural disposition, the heart finds peace in submission. When Christ's resurrection message echoes within one's spirit, it ignites the assurance that He is alive, not just historically but presently. Both pathways affirm that truth is not only something proven outside, but something realized inside. This is the inner witness of the Spirit, or the awakening of the heart. It is not something that can be forced upon a person, but something that must be received. It comes when the heart is open, seeking, ready to hear beyond noise and beyond doubt. When a person tries to rely solely on external proof, their faith may remain shallow. They may constantly require new signs, new arguments, new validations, always searching but never resting. But when inner assurance comes, rest comes with it. There is a peace that surpasses understanding, a calm that cannot be explained through mere logic. It is as if a divine light has been turned on inside the soul, making truth evident in a way that arguments cannot replicate. Some people ask, "How do you know?" And the response is not just, "Because I read it," but "Because I know it deep within." The inner witness brings a personal certainty that makes faith living and active. This internal confirmation is like a compass in the spirit. It keeps the believer aligned when they face trials, doubts, or external contradictions. For when faith is only in the mind, it can be shaken by stronger opposing arguments. But when faith lives in the heart through inner witness, no external force can uproot it. The inner witness becomes the voice that reminds the believer in moments of doubt. You know this is true. You have experienced it. You have seen it in your life. Many who once were skeptics testify that after encountering an inner awakening, their doubts faded because something inside them shifted from uncertainty to conviction. This is not irrational belief, but spiritually confirmed truth. That transformation often follows inner witness. A person who has simply acknowledged truth may not change their life. But when truth becomes personal, when faith becomes alive, it brings moral reformation, emotional healing, and spiritual renewal. The resurrection becomes a source of hope and identity. The signs in creation become reminders of accountability, purpose, and divine presence. Life is no longer aimless but aligned with a higher calling. The inner witness makes truth relevant and life-changing. It is no longer an external doctrine but an internal force guiding decisions, shaping character, and strengthening resolve. This inner assurance often grows stronger over time as faith is exercised. The more one lives in alignment with truth, the more the inner witness confirms its reality. Through prayer, reflection, devotion, and surrender, the voice within grows clearer. Doubts that once loomed large begin to fade because faith is no longer standing on mere intellectual climbing, but on deeply rooted spiritual grounding. The believer no longer merely believes because they must, but because they have experienced the resonance of truth in their soul. The inner witness creates intimacy with truth, making faith personal rather than distant. Both resurrection-centered belief and reflection-centered faith journeys lead to this same point, inward confirmation. Without it, faith lacks power. With it, faith moves mountains in the heart. The inner witness is not something to be feared or dismissed. It is the very heartbeat of spiritual life. It is what turns evidence into experience and reflection into revelation. Once the soul hears and responds, it carries within it an anchor that no wave of doubt can break. In this divine alignment, faith becomes not a choice of convenience, but a path of conviction that cannot be abandoned. Because it is no longer outside of the believer, it lives within them. Doubt is often seen as a weakness, a threat to belief, something to run from or suppress. But in reality, doubt can serve as a doorway to deeper conviction. Many begin their journey not with absolute certainty, but with questions, struggles, and a desire to know the truth. Doubt becomes dangerous only when it turns into denial without exploration, but when doubt stirs a person to seek, to question sincerely, to investigate truth with open humility, it has the potential to lead into a stronger, purer, unshakable faith. Doubt is not always an enemy. Sometimes it is a catalyst that pushes the soul beyond passive acceptance into active pursuit of understanding. When Thomas doubted the resurrection until he saw and touched, his doubt did not disqualify him but positioned him for a deeper encounter that solidified his belief. When people reflect upon signs, wrestle with questions about existence, purpose, and divine reality through Quranic ayat, their doubt can lead them to reflection that eventually solidifies their faith through internal conviction. Many people fear doubt because they think it removes them from the realm of belief. But the truth is, doubt can be the very soil in which true faith takes root. Shallow belief breaks easily because it was never tested. Faith that has walked through questions, investigated evidence, confronted uncertainties, and emerged on the other side is faith that carries resilience. Those who have walked through doubt and found truth often stand stronger than those who never questioned in the first place. Doubt may shake the surface, but if a person continues to seek truth, it can drive them deeper into a foundation that cannot be moved. It is in the tension of uncertainty that the longing for certainty grows stronger, and in the pursuit of answers that real conviction is born. Doubt often forces a person to clarify what they believe and why they believe it. It challenges assumptions, peels away superficial acceptance, and demands authenticity. It pushes the believer to research, to pray, to reflect, to listen for the inner witness that brings assurance. Doubt can bring humility, breaking prideful assumptions that one knows everything, and opening the heart to learn and grow. Someone who has wrestled with doubt and emerged with conviction often becomes a powerful testimony to others who struggle. They speak not from blind tradition, but from tested truth. In faith journeys drawn from Christ's resurrection, many came skeptically, questioning whether such a miracle could truly have happened. But as they studied the transformation of the disciples, the endurance of the message, the lack of motive for deception, and the willingness of early believers to die for their testimony, doubt slowly gave way to conviction. Similarly, those who examine the Qur'an's call to reflect on creation, the harmony of purpose in life, the alignment between conscience and divine guidance, often begin with doubt, but eventually see patterns that point toward divine authorship. In both cases, doubt was not a dead end, but a doorway into deeper certainty. The danger lies not in doubt itself, but in remaining in doubt without seeking resolution. Some use doubt as an excuse to avoid belief, hiding behind unanswered questions without genuinely searching for answers. But those who allow doubt to drive them into truth, seeking often find themselves encountering evidences, signs, and inner confirmations that build unshakable conviction. Doubt becomes a refining fire that burns away apathy and strengthens true faith. A person who emerges from such a journey often holds their belief not as inherited tradition, but as personal revelation. Doubt can be a spiritual test that reveals the sincerity of one's pursuit. Does the doubter truly want to know the truth, or are they seeking only to justify disbelief? When doubt is sincere, it leads to humility and openness. When someone says, "I am unsure, but I want to know," they are on the edge of discovery. When they ask, "Show me, guide me, help me understand," they are positioning themselves to receive deeper insight. Christ did not reject Thomas for his need to see. He met him there and led him into faith. The Qur'an calls those who doubt not to reject, but to reflect, to look at the signs in the heavens and within themselves, for doubt can be resolved through deep reflection guided by sincerity. Doubt that is approached with humility often ends in worship. Once questions find answers, once uncertainties encounter truth, the heart bows not because it has been forced, but because it has been convinced. This produces a deeper love, a stronger trust, a faith that is no longer easily shaken. Many testimonies of strong believers include moments of doubt that led to breakthrough. Their faith was not weakened by doubt, it was refined through it. They stand as pillars not because they never questioned, but because they questioned until they found answers that satisfied both the mind and spirit. Faith is not the absence of doubt, it is the decision to trust truth once revealed. Once the soul has wrestled with uncertainty and encountered confirmation, it no longer fears questions. It is now equipped with conviction to guide others who wrestle with the same struggles. A believer who has walked through doubt and found light becomes a lighthouse for others still adrift. Their conviction is born not from blindness, but from journeying through darkness and finding the dawn of truth within their heart. In the presence of doubt, many cry out for a sign, a moment of clarity. The resurrection appeared as a divine sign to the doubters of that time, transforming fear into courage. Reflective signs in creation and revelation also speak to questioning hearts today. When one responds to these signs, faith begins to emerge. Doubt, therefore, is not a wall but a bridge when one walks through it with a sincere desire for truth. It leads to understanding grounded not only in reason but also in revelation, not only in external testimony but in internal assurance. Thus, doubt when properly handled becomes a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. It is the beginning of a deeper journey, not the end of faith. For once faith has walked through doubt and found truth unwavering, it stands stronger, speaks bolder, lives deeper, and holds on to conviction with unyielding strength that cannot be shaken by circumstance, criticism, or opposition.